Oh, this little lamb has been in quite a few videos this spring. We used to have a Jack Russell who was always in trouble. We always said she had 20 lives. I think Stubby's kind of the same way. He was the one who was a breech birth, which is dangerous. I pulled him from his mom and probably injured his leg a little bit because if you look back at that video, basically a breech birth, you have to pull quickly. And hello, Stubes. And otherwise the umbilical cord breaks and they take a breath, and so you got to pull quick. But it also meant that I probably damaged his legs during birth, and so I had to put a little popsicle stick on there. And he had a couple of days of not being able to walk very well, and then I put a he's a little scratching, he's so cute. I put a popsicle stick on there so that he could walk, but it also meant that he couldn't nurse very well. And because he couldn't nurse very well, I gave him colostrum because it's really, really important he gets colostrum. But unfortunately, colostrum from a powder mix is not nearly as good as the colostrum from his mom. Now, luckily, his mom did not reject him, and she took him back, even though I was giving him the colostrum, but he stayed in the stall with her. But he remained kind of a bottle baby. He was a triplet, so I started feeding him milk. And then a few days ago, I kind of stopped giving him his milk because he's over a month old. He should be able to start eating grass, and he was still getting milk from his mom, so that should have been enough. At the same time, I moved them to a bigger field where there was some nice rich grass, and you can tell from some of these poops from the big moms that they are, it's a very rich field. And so he was probably eating a bit more grass than all of his siblings out here because of that. And he got bloat, and you can see it in his stomach. It's not nearly as bad as it was the other day, but if I look right above, you'll see his stomach sticks out. It looks kind of like he's gonna have a baby, really. And if I'll try to get another lamb, if I can get one in to hold still, and you can see the difference in them. That they don't have that same sticking out on their stomach. They're more of a lean, narrow look to them. And so that bloat, and it was tight. I mean, it's almost like a balloon that wants to burst. And there's two different types of bloat. There's kind that's caused by the milk. Usually they're milk bottle-fed babies who maybe the bottle wasn't cleaned properly, or whatever the instance may be. And they got too much milk, it was too rich, all these different things that can happen with a bottle-fed baby. In this case, he hadn't had any milk, so I didn't think that's what it was, but it could have been. There's also something called frothy bloat, which is where they eat a whole lot of rich food, and it kind of forms like inside of their stomach, a bunch of foam. And that foam doesn't allow the gases to escape. It doesn't allow them, it's kind of almost like it forms a cap inside of their stomach. And so because that cap is there, their belly just swells up. I wasn't really, honestly, the symptoms are the same. And he was kind of right on the edge of where he had had milk. He had also had a rich field. I didn't know which one it was. And this is the tough thing about being a farmer, is that these are not the same as pets. You know, my dog gets sick, I run him to the vet. These are livestock, and it's the hard truth is that it's a financial thing. And that's the only way to say it, is that you cannot take a $200 lamb and rush him to the vet and spend $1,000 on it and expect to not basically destroy all your profits and all your work for the year. It's the sad truth. I do think that I take really good care of these animals and do the best I can for them, but in the end, they are still livestock. So a farmer has to be the vet in some cases. We have to try to figure things out. You get better at it every year. You're not perfect at it, but you get better every year. And so I treated him for both types of bloat, meaning that I gave him baking soda and water to neutralize the acids basically in his stomach. And then I also gave him some vegetable oil that would kind of break down the foam inside of his stomach, if that's what it was. And then he still looked pretty uncomfortable. So then I tried something else that honestly I think was the big ticket in terms of changing things, is that I put a feeding tube down to his stomach, which is something that's commonly done with newborns. I've never actually done it when with this age, but it really isn't very hard to do. It doesn't really cause them a lot of distress. They literally swallow the tube, so it's not a huge deal. Once I had it down there, his belly, again, looked just like a big balloon, so I squeezed it. And all kinds of gases came out, just like a balloon. Smelled terrible. And then he looked a lot better, like almost instantaneously. So I don't know whether it was the baking soda, the vegetable oil, or the feeding tube, or maybe all three combined. So the next time it happens, I'll probably try all three and see what happens. I don't know. You know, it's one of those things you learn each time that you have one of these situations. Hopefully you get better at it. You take a situation and be able to apply it to the next animal and get better at this each year. But in any case, he's looking lots better. I honestly thought he was going to die that night, and look at him. He looks content as can be. Chewing his cud, looking relaxed and happy. And so Stubby continues to live. So, hello, Apple. How are you doing? So, Apple loves to be in the videos. So I'll keep you updated. Hopefully it continues to be good, but he's, I think, going to make it, which is great. We now currently have 23 lambs. I think I have one more left to deliver. This little girl right here, Cloud. She has to have it between now and April 20th because that's when the ram left, 147 days before April 20th. So she's going to turn 1 in April, so she's a young girl. Probably will just have a single, but should be having one more. That should be the last one to have hers. And I'm going to just introduce you to the very last one born, Clover, who is the same age as Cloud. It was the C year last year. Had this beautiful little ewe 2 days ago, who is doing great. And obviously, having a good time out in the pasture. Clover's being a great mom. And I'm really pleased with this year's crop. Hopefully it continues. I don't want to, push my luck that it might not work because there's still a million things that can go wrong. But so far, so good. So I'll keep you in the loop. Have a great day.